Holy hell, does she embrace the sexiness of Susan Storm and the... Well, hello and welcome to a brand new video today, folks. On a sunny Sunday afternoon here in London, quoting the Kinks classic. And why am I sat here all relaxed and chilled for you? Because I finished watching probably about 2 hours ago, before I got to my 411 VM skateboard collection videos on DVD, of course. I finished watching Tim Story's The Fantastic Four from 2005. Now, the reason why I decided to revisit that film, and I did see that film and its sequel, which was out in 2007 at the cinemas, because as we know, the MCU, which is now collectively known as, is going through a very rough patch. And look, I'm going to get on to what I think may happen with the Fantastic Four going forward in that troubled universe at the moment. But wow, Tim Story back in the day. I mean, when you look at this film now, especially on Blu-ray, yes, it's a little bit cheap in places. It's not a very well written story, but I get it. They had a property. They wanted to keep the license and see what they could do with it. Now, I have not seen the Roger Corman film from 1994. That thing's becoming a bit of an urban myth now, isn't it? It's like, it's there. You can watch it, but it's a very low grade AVI copy. And I don't know, due to licensing agreements, if we'll ever see that movie. I want to see it. If they released that on Blu-ray today, that film would sell like hotcakes. There's a great documentary about it by Chris Gorman, and if you haven't seen it, it's available on Amazon Prime. But this film, I tell you what, it's just so refreshing to watch four great actors who were cast primarily for the roles they were known as. So Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm, it's clobbering time. I mean, look, for me, he reached his peak when he played Vic Mackey in The Shield. Ewan Griffith as Reed Richards. Now, everybody's saying, oh, well, you know, we've got John Krasinski in the Multiverse of Madness. And you know what? I like John Krasinski, but he doesn't scream Reed Richards to me. Grufford at least actually makes an effort to look like the character and acts like he would in the comics. Then, of course, you've got the great Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. Flame on! And he is great. What I like about his character here as well, he's the only one of the quartet who likes to have superpowers. And honestly, the stuff that he gets away with in this film, could you do it in a version for 2024 onward? I'll talk about that later on.
Oh, I need names and shots. Bartender!
And Jessica Alba as Susan Storm, Johnny's sister. Now, what I like about this particular dynamic, we're never told they are an adoptive brother and sister. It's just left to the audience to make that conclusion, because obviously, if you've been peeking through rose-tinted lenses, Jessica Alba is a Latina. So yeah, she's kind of at that almost that nice mix between a Caucasian and a Latina woman, which I think she is in real life, isn't she? I think I am correct in saying that. If I'm not, I'm sure you'll clobber me in the comments below. But look, while Jessica Alba is not known for her acting prowess, holy hell, does she embrace the sexiness of Susan Storm and the whole vibe of this Fantastic Four? Of course, if you want to bring people in, the ultimate clickbait before YouTube was even a thing is you tempt the virginal fanboys. And I'm glad I was there. I mean, I'm glad we were there. What am I saying? Jeez. But yeah, as Sue Storm, she does stir up quite a storm in my underpants. And then we got Julian McMahon as Victor Von Doom. Of course, Julian had a lot of success back in this period when he was in another FX show called Nip Tuck. It was a pretty depraved show, actually. And he was one of these doctors that just like to have sex with his patients every other episode. It was pretty funny. But the storyline of the Fantastic Four is just basically an origin story, and how they get their powers is kind of removed from how they retold it in the comic book, or how they told it rather in the comic books. And then the whole origin of Doctor Doom is messed up. It doesn't show him to be the badass that he can be. The one thing about Doctor Doom they got right was the actual costume, but he doesn't wear the hood on for very long. And what really frustrated me watching this film is that Julian McMahon does the same voice as Victor Von Doom before he had the accident. And in the cartoons, he's got a different voice. They could have made it modular. But, you know, when we saw the 2015 Fantastic Four stick, that was a complete mess. What they did to Toby Kebbell as Doctor Doom in that was ridiculous, but you know, as a film, it's enjoyable. It's very well edited. I love the dynamic between Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis. Those two are so funny. And of course, in the sequel, it gets even funnier with what they get up to. And yeah, the story isn't much to go on, but just looking at it as a visual spectacle, I think the film did what it had to do. I think Tim Story, you know, they shot it in Canada, so they saved money that way, and he gave it his all. You know, I think the whole thing is very, very well spirited. Everybody had a good time, and that's the vibe I got out of it. Now, moving on to 2022 and beyond. Marvel. Now, you know what? A couple of years ago, we did get excited about what a Fantastic Four would look like in the MCU, or the MCU as it was back then. Stan Lee's obviously passed away, so without his input or his spirit, we're not going to know what his version of the Fantastic Four would be like on the MCU. The MCU! And I've got a prediction, right? So I think it won't be John Krasinski who returns as Reed Richards. I reckon what we saw in the Multiverse of Madness was a variant. So when we get the actual official lineup, and I bet you Victoria Alonso will be behind this, I guarantee 100%.
I don't know where the future is going. It's funny that people call it the X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in that X-Men group, so I think it's outdated.
The new Reed Richards will be played by a man of color. Sue Storm, or Sue Richards, as she'll later become, will be played by a trans woman because, you know, it's 2022 beyond, folks. You got to do that now. I reckon Johnny Storm will be gay. So he'll be like he'll be the most effeminate male actor they can find. And then Ben Grimm will be played by a lady. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Why not? We're going to really diversify the Fantastic Four, folks, because you can't have the first family of Marvel as Caucasian anymore, can you? It's going to be so wrong, and it's going to ignite all the wrong opinions in the comment sections. And if they go with that, I mean, Marvel is almost dead to me now. I mean, which is why we go back to reading the old school comics from way back then. Oh my God. And I'm going to Comic-Con next week in London, folks. So that's going to be incredible. I hope to capture that on film for you. But the Fantastic Four by Tim Story. Oh, yeah. And the other thing I forgot to mention as well, like Johnny Storm in his film is a real flirt. Like the stuff he says to chicks, you just won't get that in the new version of the Fantastic Four. You just won't. I'm sorry. It'll be like, oh, it's so toxic. You can't do that anymore. So if you enjoyed this video today, folks, you know what to do already. Make sure you hit the subscribe button before. Make sure you like that like button like it's Ryan Reynolds' perfectly formed butt cheeks. And if I were you, I would check me out on my next video.
You are trouble.
Trouble is my middle name.
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you, so are you.
In the ass end of space, even aliens watch Jason King on Kung Fu Hot Dog. Duke Nukem approves this guy.